And here we go. We are back for another episode of Cutting Edge. And I have brought with me, I'm Ben, by the way. I should actually mention these things before I do these things. So I'm Ben. I've brought two new people. Can you please introduce yourself? So we've got one co-host. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Alberto Godioli. I am an associate professor at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, and I'm the co-director of the Forum for Humour and the Law.
And we've got our main feature, our prize star for today. Can you please introduce yourself, if that's okay?
Everyone, my name is João Capelotti. I'm a practicing lawyer and a scholar in Brazil. I research the interconnections between humor and the law.
And with that, first question, Alberto, if you please.
Sure, I'm very happy to have you here, João, and thanks, Ben, also for your very kind invitation. Our first question is a fairly general one. What place does humor and the study of humor have in your professional legal life?
Well, I have always been interested in humor in particular and in freedom of speech in general. Since I was a kid and a teenager, I have always been an avid consumer of humorous content. And I recall that when I was a teenager, I used to access blogs with humorous content. And now this form of blog almost doesn't exist anymore. Now we have only Instagram accounts and TikToks and whatever. But I used to be very fond of this content, and I was sometimes intrigued by why some posts suddenly disappeared and why sometimes the blog's authors apologized for something they have said about a certain celebrity or a certain politician and whatever. And this has always intrigued me, and I decided to take a closer look at that during my PhD.
Interesting. João, can I just ask? It sounds like you were really precocious, like youth. What age were you when you were discovering that? I was like, because when I was like 33, I did not think about things being deleted off the internet. I was like, what's for lunch? So what age roughly were you when you were thinking that?
I was about 13, 14 years old.
I can see the difference immediately. Okay, there's like the real career with the brain. Right. Okay, with this, we go to the next question. Okay, as you can tell, I'm impressed. So next question, we go a bit further down this line of your career and, why humor and law and all of this. So can you maybe tell us a bit more, and the people listening, what makes humor and the law so interesting, your opinion? And also, maybe how did you come to study humor as a lawyer? Maybe you are an extremely funny lawyer. Is that it? I mean, what's the situation there?
No, I don't consider myself a very funny person. I'm not the kind of good joke teller or someone everyone pays attention to. I'm a bit shy. But I tend to be very serious when I'm a lawyer. I don't think I'm this stereotype of funny lawyer, if there is one. But I think I'm more fond of wit and irony and sarcasm, but mainly among friends. So I can't think of myself telling jokes in court, for instance, or during a hearing or something like that. Although I know there are lawyers who can do that, and there's even some scholarship about it written by some Swedish scholars that researched how humor is used in court situations, either by judges or lawyers or parties, etc. But I'm not that person. I happen to be the lawyer of a media group here in Brazil. So I have the chance of seeing conflicts between reputational rights and freedom of speech almost every day of my life.
Really?
For the last
Right.
Yeah, for the last 15 years. I've been a partner in the same firm, and I've been dealing with these cases, mainly with people questioning violations of their rights of image, honor, or privacy, etc. Sadly, there have been just a few cases regarding humor. Just, I don't know, 3 or 4 cases regarding cartoons published by one of the newspapers that we serve as lawyers. But I think humor is a very interesting topic. I have this interest in humor, as I mentioned, since I was a child.
1312, we established a time frame. We are there.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I'm 36, and so this issue has been intriguing me for a while.
Wow. Right.
So I was lucky that I had my PhD project accepted by my advisor, who also happens to be my partner in the office. So he accepted joining me in this research about the role of humor in freedom of speech, and how can we solve conflicts with reputational rights. And I wrote my PhD thesis about it, and I was lucky to find during my research some very good scholarship made by foreign authors, including Jessica Mueller-Davis,
Right.
including Laura Little, and now I have the pleasure to join them in the Forum for Humor in the Law. And of course, Alberto is a member of that too, and it's very good. It's very rich to share my findings and see what they found out too, and compare Brazilian legislation with the American one, and how the European Court of Human Rights decided some case, and how it can be compared with the Brazilian Supreme Court, and so on.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but I must say this transition is so smooth, so smooth. One might say it was scripted. It was not, listeners, people, this is real, this is live, but he is a lawyer. You can hear it. He is a lawyer. He knows exactly how to take us to the next question that Alberto has.
Absolutely. That was such a perfect transition.
Insane.
Thank you so much.
It shows, the lawyering, it shows. He lawyers.
Yeah. So speaking of your work with several fellow humor scholars from all over the world, and also the transnational dimension of your work, our next question is precisely about this, and more specifically, what can you tell us about your recent publication on humor and conflict in the Global South, and how does that connect to your being a member of the International Society for Humor Studies, also known as ISHS, and the International Society for Luso-Hispanic Humor Studies as well?
Well, this Humor and Conflict in the Global South special issue from the European Journal of Humor Research was the result of a perception that me and some fellow colleagues had about the ISHS conferences in the past few years. Alongside Rujuta Date, who is an Indian independent scholar, and Diego Hoffel, who's a fellow Brazilian scholar, we were attending the ISHS conference in Bertinoro, Italy, in 2022. And we suddenly realized that there were many people from North America and Europe, and many people talking about comedians and stuff from the so-called global north, and very few people from the so-called global south, or talking about global south issues. And we felt that there was a gap that needed to be filled with more voices from the global south, or talking about issues from the global south. And then we proposed a panel in the upcoming Boston conference in the next year. And we were very surprised that there was a huge number of people who applied for those panels. We had a very good response, much better than we anticipated. And we managed to fill 2 panels on the global south. And then in the next year, in 2024, we also had 2 panels on humor and conflict in the global south. And we had this idea of selecting the best works to be published in a journal. And we proposed this idea to Wladek Klubicki and Vili Tsakona from the European Journal of Human Research. And they embraced the project, which is great. We're really grateful for both of them with all the support they had given to us during this press.
Just sorry to interrupt you there, sorry, but we're going to place links also for people listening. We're going to place links to all these organizations. Everything's in the show notes. But being the little time person that I am here, and having the time literally in my hands, pushing us a bit further before we run out, because this is the one question I am really keen on asking, and then Alberto is coming to us with a closing one. But João, we're going back to humor and your lawyering. So let's shift it quickly around to, again, your job as, a lawyer working with humor and in humor. So what is the question then that you always get asked? People here, humor, law, and João. What is the thing they always ask you about these things, humor and law?
People ask me, what are the limits of humor? What are the legal limits of humor? As if the answer was simple, and it isn't.
You just say 5 or blue. That's it.
Yeah, precisely. And it's not possible to tell a priori what are the limits of humor. The limits of humor are ever expanding or contracting. It depends on the case, depends on the situation, depends on who is speaking and who is being spoken about. What is the media that is being used? If it's TV, it's internet, it's social media, it's a cartoon, it's a newspaper article. It's going to depend. Are we talking about a politician that is being mocked, or a private person? It's all very delicate, and finding the balance is also very delicate.
I mean,
I can say these are the limits of humor.
I mean, that's, again, if people want to read up a bit more about, we're going to link to, your profile and also Alberto's Human the Law Forum, because I think this is how I actually got to know a bit more about these things, which I think are fascinating and I think are going to be interesting to a lot of people. Alberto, if you please, the last and final question to close us out.
Sure. This is a bit of a complementary one because we've just talked about the question that you get asked very often. But what is the question that you would like to get asked more often?
Okay, I think a good one would be, how can we understand humor better? How can we assess humor? And to answer this question, I think a very good example is the toolkit that you organized. It's a sort of guideline.
He's so good at these plugs. Okay,
product placement.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, the education doesn't lie. All right.
So Alberto and some other top scholars have written very, very good. It's a sort of handbook on how assess humorous speech, how irony works, how exaggeration works, and what roles those language features play in humorous speech, and how can we use these tools to analyze humorous speech and try to figure out if it's suitable or not, if it's harmful or not, if it should be kept online or should be taken off. This is a very, very good guide, and I truly recommend it. And this is something I also try to do here in Brazil in Portuguese with much more modest purposes.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, we drew a lot on your work, so we're very grateful to you. I mean, it's good teamwork, I would say, also on Laura's work and so on. Yeah.
Right. And with that, we've got about 20 seconds left. João, if you'd like, what's your best lawyer joke? You can tell us in 20 seconds. You don't have to. We can also just fade out and just say that's it. Or any concluding remarks on you, and you've got 20 seconds.
I'm not a joke teller, so I won't tell a joke. But I would like to make some more propaganda about myself.
Propaganda.
I would like to talk about my chapter on parody and satire in the DeGruyter Handbook of Humor Studies. That's another great opportunity that I was given, and I hope that it's something meaningful and something that might help people to assess what to make of parody and satire in contemporary those mad days.
Amazing.
It's a great chapter, I can confirm. Yeah.
I've just started reading it. I mean, brilliant. Thanks so much for coming on. That's it. That's the 15. Alberto, João, thanks so much for coming on. Pleasure to hear from you and chat a bit about things with you here. And that's it, where we're going to leave the recording. To the listeners, to the people listening to this, please go to the show notes. All the information is there. Reach out to us, to Alberto, João, if you're interested in any of these topics, conferences, all this stuff coming up, also on the HSAN website. Thanks so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.